This will be indeed the golden age of America. It's coming back.
Until today, it was the signature economic policy of his second term.
If you look at that,
Donald Trump's self-styled Liberation Day was announced with fanfare in the Rose Garden last April.
64%, we're going to charge them 32%. Japan,
complete with a league table of tariffs imposed around the world.
They charge us, we charge them less. So how can anybody be upset?
But today that policy was swept aside by the US Supreme Court, which voted 6-3 to upend it. The new moody lighting in the White House briefing room set the stage for a combative press conference from the president.
I'm ashamed of certain members of the court.
He wasted no time attacking the Supreme Court justices who struck down his tariffs.
I think it's an embarrassment to their families. You want to know the truth.
Including 3 conservatives, 2 of whom he personally appointed.
They're against anything that makes America strong, healthy, and great again. They also are a, frankly, disgrace to our nation.
Then the president claimed he had a cunning plan to reintroduce them by other means.
Other alternatives will now be used to replace the ones that the court incorrectly rejected. We have alternatives, great alternatives.
And so immediately he announced a sweeping new global trade barrier.
Well, we're going straight ahead with 10% straight across the board, which was the absolute right to do. And that's taking place. That's a lot of money coming into our country.
Mr. President. Mr. President. Leaving many wondering where it left existing trade deals.
Do you anticipate that they will seek to renegotiate?
What alternatives are you going to put into place in your relationship with Europe?
The tariff rate and tariffs will ultimately be higher.
Potentially higher.
How much higher?
It depends, whatever we want them to be. But we want them to be fair for other countries. And, you know, we have some countries that have treated us really badly for years, and it's going to be high for them. And we have other countries that have been very good, and it's going to be very reasonable for them.
But what about all the billions of dollars already levied on imports from tariffs, which have just been struck down?
He will try to hold on to the money because the payments that have come in are a source of pride for him, number one. Number two, he can point to those monies when he's negotiating with other countries and saying, you still owe your part of the trade bargain. We cut a deal.
We already know Trump's preferred word.
Tariff. I love tariffs. Favorite word of every word is tariff.
Now he's apparently found another way of saying it.
We have tariffs. We just have them in a different way.
Well, Dan joins us from outside that Supreme Court. Dan, whatever the complexities of what happens next with the tariffs, this is notable. For the moment, there was severe pushback on Donald Trump and from those in that building behind you.
Yeah, that's right, Julie. This is the first time the Supreme Court has ruled against Donald Trump in his second term. And I think what's notable, as I mentioned in my report there, was that 2 of the Conservative justices that voted against the tariffs were justices that he himself had appointed, Amy Coney Barrett and Neil Gorsuch, joining with John Roberts, the leader of the court, to say, no, these tariffs aren't allowed. This is something that is in the gift of Congress to raise taxes, not in the gift of the president. And I think the big picture here is that Donald Trump has consistently tried to sort of push the boundaries of executive authority and has finally tonight come up against the kind of constitutional guardrails, if you like, in the form of the Supreme Court. Now, the timing for this is particularly awkward for Donald Trump because at the end of next month, he's got a trip to China. And of course, he wanted to have the leverage of this tool of tariffs that he could, impose at will. Now he is much more constrained, even though he's saying, well, I'll find a way around it, use other laws. But he is, I think, in reality, much more restrained. The other awkward timing is the State of the Union address that he's going to give on Tuesday to Congress. Well, now clearly he's not going to be able to crow about the magnificent success of his tariff policy because it's basically been dismantled. One other awkward thing, Julie, when he was asked if those justices that voted against him were still invited to the State of the Union, he simply said, barely.
OK, Dan, thank you very much indeed for that. So what does this all mean for the UK? Shehab's here to take us through it. I mean, we're still awaiting so many details on this. But does the government have any idea how this will affect companies here doing business with the US?
I'm not sure anyone has any idea at this moment, and we're all trying to figure it out. What we do know, given how unpredictable Donald Trump has been, that things could change very quickly, almost at a drop of a hat. We had a statement from the government that came out before Donald Trump has said that he would want to reintroduce these tariffs in a different way. They said they expected to maintain their privileged trading position. That comes from the fact that that was that deal that was done last time around when these tariffs were introduced, a deal that the Prime Minister and the government has repeatedly spoken about as being a huge moment for them. Given that Donald Trump is talking about reintroducing these tariffs in a slightly different way, we don't really know what the impact could potentially be. We know that the government secured deals for steel and pharmaceutical and a range of sector-specific areas, but there are loads of questions that come up at this point. I've been told that conversations are going on now between British officials and American officials to try and figure out what all of this means and what comes next. There'll also be questions about refunds. There'll be a number of businesses, British businesses, who may have been passed on those costs by the US companies that were hit with them. If we get into a position where refunds are then issued, do they go to the British companies? Honestly, I don't have the answer to that. I don't think anyone does at this moment. I think there are more questions than answers at this point, and we'll have to wait and see how Donald Trump reacts before we find out the answer.
Indeed. OK, Shihab, thank you very much indeed for that. Thank you.